for Kathy to hit record. Recording started.
Hey, outstanding.
Let's give a clap.
Hey, everyone. Great to see you, and welcome to the next installment of Scaling Success, Strategies for Building and Thriving a Staffing Business. I'm excited today to have Craig Fisher with us. Craig is what I would call an OG in the recruiting, staffing, and social media space. Craig is CEO and creator of TalentNet Media, which is really the leading think tank for HR tech professionals, and has all over the world bringing the best and brightest minds to help talk about issues that are important around staffing, recruiting, branding, and employer brand. Craig is one of those unique people that has been there, done that, got the t-shirt. He has been a keynote speaker literally all over the world, helping employers build brand, helping recruiting teams be more meaningful and impactful. He's also the author of 2 books, Hiring Humans, and his newest book, Paint Your Store. And I'll just leave you with this, Craig. I did some research on you, and the types of companies that you've impacted are pretty cool. JP Morgan Chase, Regis Group, Cisco, Toyota, Accenture. And I just couldn't be more pleased to have you on the show today. Back in 1996 is when I first met you, when we were both working in the technology recruiting space. And so to watch your career go and where it is, it's cool. So Craig, thanks for being here today.
Thanks, John. Appreciate that nice intro. It's great to see you. And I always enjoy working with you, and this will be fun.
Yeah, we'll keep the camera going. Signature, our focus, as you know, is all about helping small and mid-sized staffing companies grow. And we do that primarily by giving them the resources, the back office, the funding, the insurance, and really everything that they don't want to do to be able to help grow their contract staffing business. Now, the staffing space is an interesting one, and it's growing. I spent a lot of time and did deep research earlier today with about 7 keystrokes into this thing called ChatGPT. Mm-hmm. I said, are the number of staffing firms growing in the United States? And ChatGPT came back and told me, yes, they've been growing steadily. And as of 2025, there are approximately 26,000 staffing and recruiting companies across the U.S. Wow. And that is up, because the last time I looked at this number, Craig, it was like 19,000. Mm-hmm. So clearly something's going on in the industry. The market is in need for what recruiting firms have to bring to bear. But it really begs the question, with that many voices out there, how do you make yourself known? How do you make an impact? And what are the first important steps that a small or mid-sized staffing company should take in terms of building their marketing and branding foundation?
Yeah. So, John, I always say that there is room in this space for everyone, right? So I've done both sides of the desk. I like you said, started in staffing after I had a career in healthcare sales. And the staffing space is multi-pronged, right? So I've done recruiter, salesperson, manager, director, owner, consultant, and all of those things enabled me to think about helping my customer make it easier for me to recruit, right? So first of all, if you want to stand out, offer something more than just we're a staffing company or we're an executive search firm. How do you help your customer is a really good way to stand out and tell those stories, right? So once you define your niche, and that's a big deal, right? Don't be everything to everyone. Define your niche, industry, locations, role types. And because marketing without focus is like throwing paint on the wall to see what color looks good. Clean up your career site and your website. Most staffing company websites look like they were built by, $20 maybe, or in the 90s.
Gotcha.
So make those points, right? Tell salient stories about how you help your customers in ways other than just the meat and potatoes of what you do. And then tell employee stories, right? Um, People want to work with companies that treat their people well, and for companies who people like to work for. So even in this day and age where we're being sold as staffing organizations on the idea that automation and software can reduce your need for recruiters, that's not what employers really like to see, right? They want you to be affordable, but with good ROI and value, even with a staff, right?
Mm.
So show your people, tell those stories on a regular basis.
Stories sell, right? And authenticity really helps differentiate and sell who you are. I'm curious with your thoughts on, it's hard to think back all the way to the COVID world, but the employer branding really started to change during COVID when everybody was now immediately distributed. And now as we're in this, environment that's hybrid and mixed and everything, but there seemed to be a real opportunity for certain employers, be they staffing companies or end companies, pivot, change how they build their employer brand, how they represent that brand, and how they really make sure that it's continuing to grow in the right intentional way. What's your feedback on that?
Yeah. So the thing about employer brand is consistency.
Mm.
So a lot of staffing companies and even employers will ramp up for a big event or a big sales push or a big right season, whatever that is, a new offering, and they kind of ghost their audience after one or two posts, and they go away for a long time. That doesn't build an audience. That doesn't build trust. So consistency over time is really key. And it's important to think in terms of what is helpful to your audience? What would keep them coming back? Why would you subscribe to the Dallas Morning News if all they ever did was say, hey, buy our product, right? No, right? Deliver some news, deliver some entertainment, tell customer stories and candidate success stories and employee stories, and offer something that helps the people who are reading do their job better, right? And candidate content is great. Employers love staffing companies that provide candidate content because all recruiters want to repost that content for their candidates.
Mm-hmm.
Works great every time.
It's interesting. When I was in the staffing industry, I always reminded our salespeople that you're viewed as a recruiter. Your end client, whether you're a salesperson or a recruiter, your
That's
job
right.
is to be that connector, that conduit between what they need and what the marketplace has that might fit those clients. And I think you're missing the mark if you don't speak to the candidate experience that people have with you as a recruiter and the things that make you unique and stand out in either your process, your technology, your service, and maybe also your price, right?
That's right.
So I've heard you talk a little bit about a ratio when it comes to posting and sending information out to your audiences, and talk a little bit about the ratio of give and take as it relates to content.
Yeah, so I use this ratio because it's easy to remember, but also it's proven, right? There's a book even called the 80-20 principle. And a guy named John Gottman wrote it about relationships. And if you give 5 times more than you ask or complain, your relationship gets better with whoever it is you're having a relationship with. That means customers, audience, candidates. So in translating that to kind of social content and email content, give 5 times more than you ask. So entertain, inform, right? Help out, rinse, repeat 5 times before everyone, oh, by the way, and we're hiring and we're looking for a referral for this kind of role or a new customer. And that'll take you a long way towards building trust if you're consistent over time with your audience.
Well, one more question on that topic. The blending or the blurring of the lines of a person and a professional environment. How do you appropriately bring in, who I am as a person, what my company does, and where some of my posts may not speak to my service, my product, or what I do, but they speak to me and my experience. Is there any guidance there?
Absolutely. So think of it in terms of this. Your professional self is boring. Your professional self is almost like a company page. Does that make sense? So think in terms of LinkedIn or Facebook. Your company has a page, and the reach that a company page and engagement that a company page gets is far lower than the reach and engagement that an individual gets. Right? I mean, in almost every situation, company pages kind of suck. I mean, you have to put content there, but if your people aren't reposting that content and commenting on it and using that content for their own network building, then it doesn't work very well. So you as a person need to be more than just a professional billboard for what you do in your organization. You need to be personal and personable. And I think everyone should have three things, and it could be five, it could be two, but around three things that you're comfortable sharing about yourself on a regular basis. What are your hooks when you start a conversation? Are you a golfer? Do your kids play football? These are just male sports analogies, right? But it could be, you're really into books and travel or photography, yoga, whatever it is. Three things. And if you're going to share things about your family, you can do that securely, give them nicknames, right? My wife used to be the woman who helps me live in my house for a long time. My kids were numbers 1, 2, and 3 sons online for a long time before they got old enough to say, no, we want our names out there.
1, 2, 3 are your favorites.
Yeah, no, just chronologically.
Okay, all right.
According to look, I'm not going farther than that. That's what I'll say.
I love it. Well, so speaking of content, I think right, we can't open up any webinar, seminar. We can't read any content that comes out that doesn't talk about AI and the impact and how it's going to impact not only careers and people, but it's also going to, spew out a bunch of content. What are some low cost, high impact marketing strategies that actually work that, that don't confuse and build the noise? Is there any balance guidance that you might give a search firm how to leverage the technology, but how to do so in a way that's authentic and real?
Yeah. So a couple of things. First of all, you as a search firm can have a corporate account for a ChatGPT. Great, right? But then individuals can also have their own accounts. What you want them to do and what you want to do as an organization is start building a list compiler. Okay, so you have customer lists and candidate lists. They are in your CRM and or ATS. But what those machines don't do very well, like ChatGPT or Claude or some of these large language models can do, is tell you, for instance, who's on this list that's not on this list, right? Does that make sense? So as you're building lists for campaigns and outreach, I've built a really nice custom GPT that has all of my lists over time, right? Going all the way back to 2011. And it's interesting because ChatGPT can do things like test the validity of an email address and or a URL. And then also it can say, look, here's 30,000 duplicates. And you can say, okay, update those to the latest, the most recent one, and keep the personal ones that are Gmail or Yahoo, and spit out a new list, right? A grand list. It's fantastic. It's amazing. And then you can use cheap tools. You might have a fancy CRM, right? But most of those are kind of overblown and overcomplicated and expensive. You can use cheap tools like GMass. If you're a Google Workplace shop, GMass is an add-on for Gmail. And all you do is put your list, your new list, refined list, like I want all my contacts in Chicago on this one list. Wow. Okay, cool. So you put that in a Google Sheet, you start a new email in Gmail, and you push a little button in the to column that allows you to attach to that Google list. and then send individual personalized emails to that whole list, and it'll track opens, clicks, etc., and do follow-ups. I mean, just like a proper CRM. But I like the ChatGPT as your CRM assistant, right? Search and sort these names for this list and tell me who I haven't talked to lately. So the other thing you can do is export your calendar as an individual and put that into ChatGPT and say, all right, give me the companies and the types of organizations of all the individuals that I've had meetings with over the last 3 years, and then put them in order of who I should be following up with based on these criteria, right? I'm currently looking for companies that are mid-market size, and ChatGPT can go out and find
Wow.
the origin of those companies and tell you, who's your target.
So I heard just this week, I spoke with another staffing leader that's been around the space for a long time. His thesis is that the ATSs of the world, the CRMs, are starting to become so commoditized, and with things like AI and ChatGPT and that the next version, we're going to be down to like 2 versions of this. Right now, we have literally hundreds. Putting you on the spot a little bit because I know you've got relationships with a lot of these. What's your view on that?
Right. So I think that pretty soon, these LLMs, these GPT, Claude tools, Gemini, will be able to do sourcing. Okay. I think pretty soon they'll be able to go out and do proper sourcing. They can a little bit now, right? And that's the type of technology that all of the sourcing tools are building into their platforms. Now, we have to worry a little bit about bias if we're doing matching, and there's regulatory constraints there that we have to watch out for. But also, if you think about what we were just talking about, how you can search and match lists of your own, and create campaigns. You can create all the tools. Even it's amazing now, the ad copy and the artwork for social posts and ad campaigns can be easily, just by describing what you want. I want a background of Chicago with these words on it, right? And a placeholder for a person right here. And then you can attach it to Canva, and it can do all the things that right now no ATS or CRM does, right? So very quickly, that's all going to go away. You're going to still have to have some sort of system of record, probably for the next unforeseeable future, 10 years at least. You'll have to have something that can be audited, but beware, because your LLMs will get audited as well at some point.
You got to think that's coming. I hear more and more about governance in terms of not only matching, but how those candidate profiles are represented and are they accurately portraying their skills, background, and experience to the world, right? Very interesting. So we talk to a lot of staffing firms that are looking for that next thing. They're trying to grow. And maybe, again, they're doing direct hire and they want to get into contract, and we're teaching them the mechanics of that. Maybe they're looking at a new geography or a new labor category. And, so often, I want to just tell them frankly, and I do in a nice and polite way, you're trying to do too much. You're thrashing, right? And I see that happen. And not only whether that's not niching their skills and their market mastery, but I also see it with their consumption of tools and technology, thinking that's going to solve their problem. Is that something you run into? How do you provide guidance there?
All the time. So I, this about me. I've been dealing with AI tools for recruiting since about 2017.
Wow.
And so, this is when we implemented the first instance of Paradox on the DXC technology career site, right? So a little candidate helper bot that didn't really know anything at the time. And since then, I've had a lot of customers come to me because I did a lot of the original research and surveys in this space to understand, will candidates respond to these chatbots? Is it, going to be intrusive, or and people still want to talk to people is the bottom line there. But companies say, yeah, we want to add AI. We've got some funding in our budget for AI. And the response to that is, okay, but what's your goal?
Yeah.
Right? What are you trying to do? Do you not get enough applicants? Are you not able to, respond to your applicants in a timely way? Or do you have a bad candidate experience? Are you not converting? Are people coming to your website and not completing your application? Right? All of these things are process improvement issues, and a little bit of technology can help, but it's got to be very specific to the use case. What's the gap, right? And then what's the fit? And the fit is not necessarily AI. Half the time it's not. And most companies really only need AI for those administrative type tasks we're talking about, content generation and time tracking and hourly check-ins and things like that. Those large language models are really, really good at. But as far as you don't need a $150,000 tech fix that is not going to get used, because even with automation and bots and machines and LLMs, people still have to use it. They don't work by themselves. You can't set it and forget it. They break on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And they also spit out nonsense sometimes. So you have to have human eyeballs.
I saw this cartoon the other day, and I hope it's not the future, but it had a picture of a man and a dog, and they were up over this factory floor. I don't know if you saw it in the Wall Street.
You told me about this.
Yeah. And the man and the dog are looking across this factory floor, right? And it said, this is the future. The man is there to feed the dog, and the dog is there to make sure the man doesn't touch anything.
Yeah.
I thought, oh, wow, is that where we're going? Who knows? All right, let me ask you a leading question here. So I'll preface this with, I believe it's self-serving, but I also believe it to be true. When you look at the labor market today, all data from staffing industry analysts, American Staffing Association, the Department of Labor, they are reporting that the percentage of the labor force that's in a contract role today is growing at a rate greater than it's ever been. Mm-hmm. And there are predictions that will get into the 40% range of the total labor force. Now, you got to carve out things like gig workers, the Uber Eats drivers, and those types of things. But given our recruiting audience that we're trying to serve today, as they look at their business and they're trying to determine how do they go to market, and many make these two big jumps between, I'm either going to do direct hire or contract staffing. And our guidance is do both. Mm-hmm. But what's your read on where the labor market's going as it relates to that specific question? Are we seeing a trend of workers becoming more interested in and employers being more open to hiring contractors?
Yes, absolutely. So definitely full-time employee populations are shrinking, right? Now, that's a sign of the times, right? This economy, that's kind of when that happens, and contractors go up in numbers. And we've seen this over time, every 10 or 15 years. So that's kind of the ebb and flow of the macro economy. But the gig economy that sort of blossomed in 2015 or so and just has continued to grow is a real thing. And that's not just Uber drivers. That's now kind of everyone. The book I wrote, Paint Your Store, is about collecting and attracting gigs, right? Sometimes they turn into full-time employment, but very often that employment is short-lived. The average tenure, John, of a CMO is 2 years.
Wow.
Right? So this idea, even a CEO, this idea that you're going to go somewhere and stay in that role for 5+ years is relatively unheard of now, because we've got all these ideas about internal mobility. We've got all these lean process ideals in the workforce, And that very often calls for a blend of, hybrid gig workers, contractors, and full-time employees. I think, and I really do feel this way, that we're going to be at a place in the near future, next few years, where individuals are really hosting and obtaining their own personal insurance, right? A lot of this is not going to be supplied by corporations anymore. A lot of our government benefits are going to be privatized. And so, again, the corporation won't be responsible for some of those taxes and benefits. And we're going to enable, individuals to be self-sufficient so that they can control who they work for, how they work, when they want to work. And this is going to be important for a few reasons. So, minimum retirement age is going to go up, right? Soon. We are living longer, working longer, and it's difficult actually to retire in this country. Most people, you've seen the news on this. Most Americans don't have any retirement, like, to speak of. Percentage-wise, it doesn't really exist. Yeah. Social Security is shrinking. And the population of young workers actually participating in the workforce is also shrinking. So how do you accommodate for an aging workforce, right? That's going to mean a lot of contracts and things like that, if you ask me.
Yeah, makes sense. Well, thanks for supporting that supposition, but we're seeing it play out every day.
Yeah.
So, Craig, I really appreciate you making time to be here today. For our recruiting firm owners, we've got more of these sessions that are coming through the summer. And again, our intent is to equip, educate, inform, and more importantly, help you do what you need to do. So you'll see more of us, and hopefully, Craig, we'll see more of you.
Thanks, John. And if you're looking for answers to any of these things that we talked about, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I do fractional CMO work for staffing companies all the time. So if you need help, let me know.
Sounds good. Thanks so much. Take care.